this.
Well, no, there's no editing. Right, Boris is a joke. You've already said it, right? Boris is a joke. You said he's a terrible mayor.
I think he's crap.
He's crap. Okay, he's a mirror reflection of our society.
He does, to a certain extent, represent greed. And I think that's a very unpleasant part of the human condition, that people do tend to want more and more. And at some point you have to say, hold on, haven't you got enough? You know, but Boris wants more. And
but
yeah.
this is the state of UK politics. This is he's like, have you ever seen Charlie Brooker's Black Mirror? You know,
yes.
This is what Boris Johnson is.
I mean, I can't complain about him more than I do already.
I mean, do you remember the time, right, when he put glue on the lamppost to get hold of the pollution?
No, it's on the road.
On the road.
Yeah, of course.
Tell him what he done.
Yeah. Right, well, we've obviously got a really big problem with air pollution here in London, and we were saying to the mayor the only way to cut pollution quickly is to actually stop some traffic, because we need to get some cars off the road. Instead of that, he did a couple of things. One of them was to put pot plants down the very heavily polluted bit of road on the way to the Olympic Stadium. This is an Olympic year. And the other thing he did was, at Marylebone, there's an air pollution monitoring station, and outside the monitoring station he put a sort of glue on the road so that the pollution, which is mostly, well, a lot of it is particulate, soot, would stick to the road and it couldn't be monitored. Because
he put the glue on the monitor. The monitors around London, he had people going around the EU monitors, and he was sticking glue in them to suck in the pollution so it wouldn't go inside the monitor.
That's right, because the monitor's actually it's already about 10 feet up in the air. So it's not even down at exhaust pipe level, which is where it would measure most.
Didn't he say the other day, don't walk near the edge of the road?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, stay off the busy roads, and then you won't breathe as much pollution.
What's happening with the police?
Well, what sort of aspect of the police would you like to discuss?
Okay,
they are. I mean, their budget has been cut savagely, and I don't think anybody would ever dispute, even the police themselves, that there wasn't a lot of fat to trim. But even I am starting to worry that it's gone far enough, and perhaps, you know, a little pause would be a good idea.
Did you know Thursday is Domestic Extremist Day?
Oh, is it? No, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I'm a domestic extremist.
I know you are, because you've been arrested, you've been kettled.
Yeah, I was arrested last year, and they still haven't told me what for, but they de-arrested me within 3 minutes. Unlike somebody I sat next to on a panel the other night.
So you are actually on the London Assembly Police and Crime Committee, aren't you?
I am. I'm deputy chair.
So what's going on with this whole surveillance thing?
Well, in the House of Lords, there's been some moves by four cross-party peers who were trying to put some quite repressive stuff on surveillance into the counter-terrorism bill, and their argument is that if we're going to stop terrorism, we need more surveillance. But of course it's an incredibly weak argument, because I think it would be very, very difficult for surveillance alone. And what we found from other times, like the murder of Lee Rigby and Paris, it's looking like it's actually solid police work that's missing. On Lee Rigby, what they said was that it was the sort of the delays in actually passing information on, and proper report writing and filing, and that. It's dogged police work that's going to foil terrorism.
Yeah, but I don't. What about what I'm interested? What I was thinking about was more like the surveillance that goes on at protests, where people are turning up at protests and being filmed just for going marching for their wages.
Yeah, I know. That's very repressive, and that's stuff I'm fighting against with the police all the time. What the police have told me over the years is that they have kept an eye on me and put me on their domestic extremist database, and that one of their reasons was because they knew that anything I went to wouldn't turn violent, because I don't go to violent events, and so that was their I mean, it's totally illogical. And they must have thousands of other people like me, including journalists and lawyers.
Didn't they say they've got 18 million people's mugshots?
Oh, that's something. That's something that's just come out. Yeah.
I spoke with Helen Steele, who was she was to do with the undercover policing, and she met what she thought was the love of her life. I think his name was John Dines, a policeman who didn't declare as a policeman. That's awful, isn't it?
It's absolutely terrible, and I've been working with those women and with their lawyers to try to make the police accept that what they did then was wrong, and also to make sure they're not still doing it, because basically they sent out a bunch of police officers to infiltrate organisations. They did it by sleeping with women, and some of the tactics they use sound very, very similar. When you talk to the women, they all have the same story about how the guys were mirroring them. Do you know this technique when you say, oh, I really like Dolly Parton, and I say, oh, I love Dolly Parton, God, she's brilliant, you know. And all of the police did this, and it looks as if they were trained to infiltrate these women, and then of course mess their lives up. And more than one have had a kid, and then of course just deserted them.
And they took they used identity of
dead kids and so on.
Children.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely disgusting. I've been doing a lot of work on this, but the police are so resistant to criticism, and they come up with terrible excuses.
I mean, yeah. How can you trust the police though? We're within a society where they're filming you, where they're collecting your mugshots, where they are sending undercover police into perfectly legitimate people that want to protest about the climate, and they want to. That's horrific.
It is horrific, yeah, and they don't seem prepared to take responsibility for it.
I mean, we can't trust the police, we can't trust the media, we can't trust Westminster.
Well, can't you trust the media? Can't you trust the police? I mean,
the media is so right-wing, it's unbelievable.
Not all of them.
Tell me which one's not.
Well, think about what Rob Evans and Paul Watsit did, you know, on undercover, on all the undercover stuff. There are journalists out there who are...
No, I agree with you. There are journalists out there who are extraordinary. I'm not saying, but I'm talking about as BBC News headlines. I'm talking about your Daily Mail, your Daily Telegraph, your Sun. I mean, it's horrific. They, you know, looking at the election coming up now. I think
we're actually lucky here. If you look at Australia, for example, there the press is really right wing because it's all controlled by Murdoch, and the Guardian out there is the only left wing element, and that's all online. That's not even a newspaper. Here in Britain, we do have some choices. I think it's wrong to condemn all the media, just as it's wrong to condemn all the police. There are some really good police officers. I talk to a lot of people in things like traffic or fighting female genital mutilation and so on. There are some good people there, so you can't condemn them all.
No, you can't condemn all. Even in the Lee Rigby thing, when they turned up, I mean, that was horrific. And they turned up, they took out those two guys, didn't they?
But you can't condemn everybody in the Lords either. There's some good people in the Lords who are doing their best. You know, it's wrong to condemn out of hand, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, you still end up with a society that has banquets for the rich, austerity for the poor, and prejudice for everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think of UKIP?
Well, I think they're a disgusting party, but they've done us a favour because actually they've stirred things up politically. I think the Scottish referendum and then the influence of UKIP, you know, has made politics more interesting. I mean, most people, they don't trust politicians. They don't know who to vote for anymore. You know, they don't like politics. But UKIP actually have made it more interesting. For every person who's attracted to the UKIP message, there's probably dozens of others who are actually thinking, God, I need an antidote to that because they're so awful. So the Green Party at the moment, we've more than doubled our membership in less than a year. It's a bit scary, actually.
I mean, we had racist fans on the streets. We had racial profiling at London train stations. That's out of order, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, yeah. But you know, for example, the BNP's more or less disappeared, hasn't it? You know,
didn't Ed Miliband yesterday? He came out and said that UKIP's concerns are legitimate.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh. You can't. You have to deal with. There are obviously people who think like that, and you have to deal with them, and you have to try to minimise that sort of racism and intolerance and I suppose violence of thought.
I mean, London's a fantastic place to live, isn't it? It really is. I love this city. There's nothing, you know, I've been around and done different things around the world, but I love this city.
Yeah. But at the same time, look at the way that housing is going, and look at the fact we're losing green space all the time. We're losing housing stock.
I was thinking more about the people. I don't know. It's a, you know, tell me this. How can we elect somebody like Boris Johnson?
1 million people voted for him. You know, they thought he'd do a good job, I guess. I don't know, personality politics.
He shut 10 fire stations. He sacked 550 firefighters, or took 550 firefighter jobs.
And he said on his election platform he wouldn't close ticket offices at tube stations and so on. You know, I mean, when he was elected in 2008, he was an absolute amateur, and you know, subsequently he's realised, you know, I mean, the difference between what Ken said about ticket offices and what Boris has said about ticket offices is 6 years.
I'm going to come back to ticket offices.